Hello. I'm going to make a video here, probably a bit too late, but maybe this will be useful to someone in the future, on why celebrating a holiday with pagan origins is a bad thing. Because this is something I kind of stumbled on a little bit when I was first getting into the walk, leaving basically just the doctrines of lawless pagan Christianity. Well, I still am a believer in Christ, obviously, not to dissuade anyone saying that like I'm not a Christian or something. Obviously, I'm still a follower of the Messiah, but I'm saying when I first like started to wake up to like, hey, we're supposed to be like keeping the Sabbath and eating clean and not doing the holidays and stuff. The holidays was the one that I kind of struggled with the most because I didn't quite understand, but I didn't quite understand why it was a bad thing. But this video is meant to persuade anyone who's maybe struggling with that as well. But yeah, so the main reason why it's a bad, like holidays like Christmas, Easter that have pagan origins is because, well, God says not to do holidays like that. He says in Deuteronomy 12, and let me pull that up real quick, but he says in Deuteronomy 12 specifically not to worship him in the same way that the heathens do. So he says, and of course I have the wrong version on it. Here we go. Take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them, after that they be destroyed from before thee, and that thou inquire not after their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. Thou shalt not do so unto the Lord thy God, for every abomination to the Lord which he hateth have they done unto their gods, for even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their gods. What things soever I command you, observe to do it. You shall not add thereto, nor diminish from it. So he specifically says, do not learn how these nations serve their gods and try to do the same thing for me, because I don't want that worship. I want you to worship me in spirit and in truth. Okay. You can't just take a fake day of the year that was based on like the winter solstice pagan celebrations and say, this is the new birthday for Christ. That's not worshiping in truth. And you're really just making God angry by doing it because you're doing the same exact thing the heathens are doing. Like, think about it. Which God are you actually serving? Are you serving the God of the Bible? Or are you serving a God that commanded you to go and do these big winter parties, put up a bunch of greenery and paint eggs and talk about Easter bunnies and teach that to your kid, um, you know. And that's the thing with like especially Santa Claus and the Easter bunny. Like I know some people stay away from that but still celebrate the holiday Christmas or whatever, but Santa and Easter bunny especially, that's harmful because when you teach your kids that, well, they're going to question like, well, hold on, my parents lied to me out with this. Why should I trust them on, the Messiah or, God? Why should I believe them on that? So that's especially dangerous, especially if you read Matthew 18:6 about offending one of these little ones. But even the holiday itself, God is not happy with us celebrating. Also in Deuteronomy 12, there's this. You shall utterly destroy all the places wherein the nations which ye shall possess serve their gods, upon the high mountains and upon the hills and under every green tree. Ye shall overthrow their altars and break their pillars and burn their groves with fire, and ye shall hew down the graven images of their gods and destroy the names of them out of that place. So that's something I show people like, does that really sound like God is okay with us taking pagan customs and, images and stuff like that and trying to like use them for good? No, of course not. He says to not do that. He says to destroy that stuff, utterly destroy it. And people are trying to say it's okay. It's just my, as long as my intention is good, it's okay. Well, no, that if your intention is to worship God in a way that he told you not to, well, then your intention is not good. You have a wicked heart because you're doing something he told you not to do. And there are some people that are ignorant about it. They don't know that they're serving another god when they celebrate these holidays because they're just unaware. And God will give some mercy to some of those people, thankfully. But that's why we have to be waking those people up so that they do not do those things, so that they have a better chance of salvation. um, let's see what else I got. So yeah, it's serving other gods basically is what it's doing. And that might sound kind of surprising. Like, how am I serving another god? Well, you're doing the same festival that they did for their gods. Like, yes, it is possible to. I had someone say that on Twitter. It's not possible to accidentally serve another god. Well, yes, it is. It says in Revelation 18 here that for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. Talking about like Babylonian sorcery, which is where Easter, Ishtar, that comes from. Tammuz, which is what you celebrate on Christmas. That was his birthday. Um, but yeah, it says nations, all nations are deceived by this sorcery. It doesn't mean they think they're actually like, doing something wrong. They're deceived. They don't know. Okay. Um, but it's really just this simple. Like this is the most obvious point that I could make. But like, could I, as a Christian, go and start celebrating Yule and say that it's for Christ? No, of course not. Of course, I couldn't just go celebrate Yule and say like, oh, this is a good thing. I'm doing it for Christ. Because no, he obviously doesn't want you to worship him that way. That's exactly what the church did back however many years ago. Like I think it was 300 or so or 400 something AD when they eventually co-opted this holiday. And that is what they did. Like some people will even get defensive and be like, well, we don't actually know for sure it's a pagan holiday. Like it could be, but well, no, it pretty clearly is. Tertullian, this is a good source I like to use. Um, Tertullian, this is kind of hard to understand, so but just know that he's being sarcastic here. Maybe that'll help explain it. But he records that the early Christians they were basically participating in these holidays. He was writing this in, or well, he was born 145 to 220 AD. We don't know exactly when this was written, I don't think. But the early Christians, they were participating in Saturnalia and New Year's Day, both of which were pagan holidays, and he's condemning this, calling it idolatry. So I'll read some of it. Just yeah, keep in mind it's kind of hard to understand, but he is being sarcastic, so I'll try to explain it. But the same apostle elsewhere bids us to take care to please all, as I, he says, please all by all means. No doubt he used to please them by celebrating the Saturnalia in New Year's Day. Was it so, or was it by moderation and patience, by gravity, by kindness, by integrity, in like manner when he is saying, I have become all things to all, that I may gain all? Does he mean to idolaters an idolater, or to heathens a heathen? To the worldly worldly? But albeit he does not prohibit us from having our conversation with idolaters and adulterers, and the other criminals, saying, otherwise you would go out from the world. Of course, he does not so slacken these reins of conversation that since it is necessary for us both to live and to mingle with sinners, we may be able to sin with them too. Where is there, or where there is the intercourse of life which the apostle concedes, there is sinning, which no one permits. To live with heathens is lawful, to die with them is not. Let us live with all, let us be glad with them, out of community of nature, not of superstition. We are peers in soul, not in discipline, fellow possessors of the world, not of error. But if we have no right of communion in matters of this kind with strangers, how far more wicked to celebrate them among the brethren? Who can maintain or defend this? The Holy Spirit upbraids the Jews who with their holy days, saying, your Sabbaths and new moons and ceremonies, says he, my soul hateth. By us, to whom Sabbaths are strange, and the new moons and festivals, formerly beloved by God, the Saturnalia and New Year's and midwinter's festivals, and matronalia are frequented, presents come and go, New Year's gifts, games join their noise, banquets join their din. O better fidelity of the nations to their own sect, which claims no solemnity of the Christians for itself. Not the Lord's Day nor Pentecost, even if they had known them, would they have shared with us, for they would fear lest they should seem to be Christians. We are not apprehensive lest we seem to be heathens. So basically, what he's describing there is the early Christians. They were celebrating these holidays, Saturnalia, New Year's, Matronalia, other stuff like that, just all the big winter solstice festivals. And he's basically saying, this is horrible. Like, do not do this, guys. Like, this isn't an excuse. Like, they were twisting Paul, like Peter predicts, to like say, oh, we can go and do their thing. We're just trying to please them so that we can bring them over. Well, no, you can't do sin to try to bring a sinner over. You have to like you relate to them in other ways than that. You can't just like take a pagan holiday, adopt it, and start saying it's for Christ. Like that's exactly what the church did. They realized their converts were doing all these celebrations, and they were like, okay, crap, what do we do? I know, let's make up this idea that it's actually about Christ. We're doing it for him. This is his new birthday. So that's what they did. They changed the winter solstice holidays to a celebration for Christ, but the Bible explicitly says, do not do this. And well, they did it anyway because, well, they cared more about receiving those converts than they did following God truthfully. And It's unfortunate, but it's exactly what the Bible predicts. It had to happen. Prophecy is not in vain. Something else about this same idea in Exodus 32, Aaron, the leader back then, when Moses was up in the mountain, they were getting scared. His people are like, "What do we do? Like Moses isn't coming back." Obviously, he was going to come back, but they didn't know. So what Aaron did is he made the golden calf. When Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made proclamation and said, "Tomorrow is a feast to the Lord." They rose up early on the morrow and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings, and the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. They made this golden calf, and they said, it's in Aaron was trying to say, he's the leader, the religious leader. He's trying to say, oh, this is a feast for the Lord. It's not for a pagan god, even though they made a literal pagan idol. That's exactly what the Catholic Church did. They're putting up this Christmas tree and they're saying, okay, well, it doesn't matter that this is a pagan idol because we're just doing it for the Lord. And you can't do that. And yeah, it is actually saying it's the Lord right there, because the Lord, if you check the Hebrew, it's Jehovah. So yeah, they were trying to do it for him, but no, God hates it. He hates it when you try to mix this stuff and like mix the holy with the profane. That's another theme that you'll see in the Bible. So yeah, you can't just make a golden calf and like try to make it into a good thing. You have to utterly destroy it, like he says in Deuteronomy 12. That doesn't mean go around and tear down people's Christmas trees, because that's a command only for when you're in the land. But the point is, God does not want you to mix this stuff with worship for him. It doesn't matter what it means to you, it matters what it means to him. And that's something Jim Staley says. I would actually recommend his video, December 25th on trial. He makes a pretty good video on that, even though he does go in air with other things, saying like we have to do the feast and that the Sabbath starts at Friday sundown. He did a good video on the December 25th on trial. He made some really good source finds, if that makes sense. But yeah, these green trees, especially, they're all throughout prophecy. Like you can just go to like the KJV, like I'm on Bible Gateway right here, and search under every green tree. Let's see how many results I got. I got 10 different results throughout prophecy. Like it's talking about the house of Israel, usually. Also, it talks about Judah, which is more treacherous. But these green trees, that's talking about like that's not just nothing. It's in prophecy for a reason, and it's talking about the Christmas tree. But I had one more thing I wanted to say. But yeah, the last thing that people will say, like, well, how can it really be bad? Like, it's just a little celebration. It's not harmless. And they're completely forgetting that God is a jealous God. He is not happy with this stuff. It may seem harmless, but you can see the effects in society. Romans chapter 1, like the source of all this degeneracy we have today, it's from idolatry, because that is the sin that leads to death. And when you do these holidays, you're serving another God. You're doing the same festival as what the pagans did. Um, so yeah, I would say to that, like, because they say like it's not hurting anyone. That's the same argument people use with like homosexuality too. So obviously they might think that it's not hurting anyone, but it has effects that aren't obvious like all the time. It isn't always obvious. And think about it, Satan. It says in 2 Corinthians, Satan comes like an angel of light. So he's going to come and he's going to deceive people thinking that it's a good thing, but it's really not. It's a bad thing. And then here's some other verses I wanted to like continue this idea with. Proverbs 3, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes, fear the Lord and depart from evil. So don't trust in your own understanding of this. It may not make sense immediately, but it is something that God hates, and that's as simple as it needs to be. Trust in him. Do not put your own like ideas on this. Satan comes like an angel of light, so he's going to deceive you if you're not obeying the word. And then I had one more or two more. Deuteronomy 12:8. I could just say that one. It just says not to do every man whatsoever is right in his own eyes. Then Isaiah 55 here, 7 to 9. Let the wicked forsake his way, and the unrighteous man his thoughts, and let him return unto the Lord, and he will have mercy upon him, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. So that's a very famous passage, but people don't really take it into consideration all the time. God's ways and his thoughts are higher than ours. If he says that what we're doing is evil, then it is evil. Okay. There's no making compromises. Like the Messiah especially, he never made compromises with evil. He called things out for what it was. But yeah, you can't just make a compromise with evil. He never told us to go and like take all their imagery and start using it for him. Like he doesn't like it when you put that sun disk image around the head of Jesus. That's not even his name, by the way, too. His name is Yeshua. But that's essentially what I had to say. Like, hopefully that explained it a little bit better. Don't celebrate these holidays, Christmas, Easter, Halloween, Valentine's, New Year's, all this stuff. It's rooted in paganism. And because of that, God does not like it. Because if you celebrate it, you are serving another God, and God does not like that at all. He tells you, do not learn the way of the heathen. Okay. So please do not do that.